Yo, what is up guys? It's the Nightwing at Way of Life Esports coming at you guys with another League of Legends video here today. Ever since Season 8, Team Liquid has been one of the best organizations in the LCS, challenging the likes of other esports organizations, Cloud9 and TSM. They've won 4 LCS trophies since Season 8 and being looked at as a joke since Season 5 when they had players like Piglet, I Will Dominate, Matt, Lorlo. They finally overcome their 4th place curse and started winning LCS trophies. They didn't make it out of the 2018 Midseason Invitationals group stage where they lost in a tiebreaker to Fnatic. Then, later on, they didn't make it out of the 2018 World Championship group stage. In 2019, they got 2nd place at the Midseason Invitational, and at that current moment in time, they upset the current world champion Invictus Gaming in one of the best, if not the best, upset in League of Legends history. Then, following that same year, they met Invictus Gaming again at the 2019 World Championship in the same group where they eventually got knocked out by them. And then in 2020, there obviously was no MSI, but Team Liquid went through kind of a revamp because Doublelift later on after the 2020 LCS Spring Split went to go play on TSM, and they brought in a new AD carry tactical. They had a lot of issues in the LCS 2020 season where they finished 9th place, even when bringing over a player like Broxa, who was touted to be a really strong jungler who could play towards any of their mid laners, their current and still current mid laner being Jensen, but before they had Pobel for their other previous iteration for Team Liquid ever since Season 8. Then, now, going into the 2020 World Championship, when they were at the play-in stage, they did very well. They made it to the main group, where obviously they had a lot of issues still while playing really slow, and then when their backs were against the wall, they actually started playing insanely fast, but it was too little too late. They gave up a free game to Machi Esports in week 1 of the 2020 World Championship group stage, and they actually beat Suning in G2 in order to force a tiebreaker later on, but that was dependent on if G2 could actually beat Suning again, and that didn't happen, and then Team Liquid didn't make it out of the 2020 World Championship group stage, and now going into the LCS 2021 season, and later on, when we get to the 2021 World Championship, can TL shake this dark horse off their back with their newest roster? Their newest roster is Alfari, who comes from the LEC, who previously played on Origin. You also have Santorin, who previously had played on FlyQuest. Then you also have the same mid AD carry and support. So let's talk about Team Liquid. So Team Liquid are a team that has constantly had this issue of just being proactive and being faster, because the reason why they got Broxa was to actually play a lot more faster. But in terms of how Broxa was playing during the LCS 2020 season, he wasn't really fast at all and was actually a pretty mediocre jungler, all things considered. And he had horrible synergy with Jensen. That mid-jungle synergy that the players were talking about that they really needed just wasn't there. That was the initial reason why they let go of Xmithie going into the LCS 2020 season. And that mid-jungle synergy has been thoroughly lacking from Team Liquid. You can clearly see how it's a big hindrance on them on the international stage. Now, looking at other problems they have, they don't really play too many champions. And even looking at the LCS 2020 season, if you look at all the champions they played, they actually didn't play a lot of champions. They actually had the least amount of champions played by all their players. So that means that can be one of two things. Either they're hiding strats for later on for best of 5s, or they're really good at the champions they play, so they just pick the normal stuff. I think it can go both ways. If you wanted to argue it, it really doesn't matter. I personally think there's not a real reason to show everything in the regular season, because later on, when you get into best of 5s, you want to have that extra edge by showing other things you can actually do, but still holding back your other strats. It just depends on how you want to actually play out specific compositions. So if Team Liquid are really good at playing like 1 or 2 or maybe even 4 champs at the maximum for all their players, that's a good thing, because it makes it really hard to draft against them per se in a best of 5 coming up in the LCS 2021 season, because you really don't know what they're going to pull out. Are they going to pull out a standard comp, or are they going to pull out a comp where you haven't seen them play this yet? But it depends on how well they execute on that comp. So let's focus on the players right now, and then I'll kind of bring it back home with the other point about Team Liquid. So Coming into the LCS 2021 season, you have a player like Alphari. Now, Alphari is actually pretty good. He previously played on Misfits. He previously played on Origin, where he was a really strong individual top laner, super strong mechanically. He was also a top laner that consistently wins his lane on picks like Aatrox, Gangplank. He can play weak side, strong side. He TPs properly. He team fights very well. He's everything you want in a top laner. He can play both sides properly in terms of if you have a weak side top laner, he'll play it like a strong side top laner, and then obviously vice versa. Now, in terms of will this be an upgrade over Impact? I personally think it is, because it allows them to actually have a consistent strong side top laner that they can obviously draft towards in their drafting phase. Now, looking at Alphari and kind of isolating him, I think he'll be personally fine. There's not going to be that much competition in the LCS 2021 season in terms of the top lane pool. As you guys already know, what's his biggest competition? Potentially Fudge and Huni? No, and Huni's not that good, so that doesn't count. So most likely Alphari will be the best top laner in the LCS outside of a player like Licorice, and Impact will be somewhere in there. I do personally think Fudge will be pretty strong. So you have a mixture of the top four, which most likely will be Fudge, Impact, Licorice, and Alphari. I think Team Liquid and FlyQuest have the best top laners for the LCS 2021 season. I'm not even worried about the Alphari pickup, because I think Alphari can be flexible with any team he plays on. And if you look at the stats on Origin, Alphari did really well when Origin were pretty much just shit in the bed consistently every single week with their abysmal gameplay. But other than that, I think Team Liquid really did upgrade with Alphari. I think he will provide a lot for the team, and not just in terms of a consistent carry. Sometimes, you know, having a consistent carry isn't bad, but if you need a carry player overall, Impact just wasn't really going to be that player after a certain point. He was just kind of, you know, it wasn't that he wasn't a carry player, it just wasn't going to be something that you could consistently rely on, and that's what Alphari is, and I think he'll do perfectly well with that. Now, that goes into my next point, and the next player, which is Santorin. So Santorin, this is going to be the part where people are probably going to disagree. I think this pickup doesn't really make a lot of sense. Let me explain. So, Team Liquid has had a consistent problems with their junglers playing too slow, or they can't play towards their mid laners, whether it be Pole Belter or Jensen, or even in the older days, you know, when they had freaking Phoenix and I Will Dominate. That's crazy that this is still a problem after all these years, right? So, I'm looking at it this way. Santorin's biggest strength to me when I'm watching him is that he plays towards his mid laners really effectively. He plays towards Bjergsen effectively when he was on TSM, and he played effectively toward Power of Evil when they played together on FlyQuest, and Santorin also played really well with Pole Belter when he was on FlyQuest as well. So Santorin's biggest strength will be a boost to Team Liquid if that can be something they can obviously grasp on and make it a better thing for their team, because if you have Santorin and Jensen as a really good jungle mid duo, that's really good, because now you get to have another thing you can play towards. Now, here's the issue with Santorin. I personally think he doesn't provide a lot of ganks early on. He's like decently faster pace. He can up the tempo of the game if it needs to be, but he's not necessarily a carry jungler. He's more or less so a better facilitator jungler than Xmithie and Broxa, so he is an upgrade over the two junglers. I just personally think that it depends on how Santorin will affect the map. Now, if you've been watching Santorin for a very long time, he doesn't really gank for top, but he doesn't really need to gank for top right now, because Alphari is going to be pretty fine on his own, in my own personal opinion. Santorin's biggest thing is that can he get CoreJJ to work with him? Now, if he gets CoreJJ to work with him, they're going to have a strong team. Imagine, Santorin went from having Ignar, who was a pretty good support in the LCS 2020 season, where obviously Santorin and Ignar really were some of the backbone players of FlyQuest that I thought really didn't get a lot of credit. Like, let's be honest here, Power of Evil could not have just solo carried all these games without Santorin and without Ignar when they were on FlyQuest together. But now he's going to be on Team Liquid with much stronger players. Like, CoreJJ is an upgrade over in Santorin's eyes over Ignar, and that's going to be a big boost. CoreJJ always wants to get things done early game, but just focusing on Santorin, I think that it's a problem with Santorin if he's not like a faster paced jungler, but it just depends on which picks he'll be on. It really does depend, honestly, because we saw at the 2020 World Championship when he was on champions like Lillian and things like I forgot what other junglers he played. I'm making this video, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. He didn't really provide any faster paced aggression, or when he was on like Graves or Lillian, you guys know what I'm talking about, there wasn't really much going on to it. It feels like he just played them like tank junglers, which is not a good thing. You know, so that's the problem with the pickup. It's not that it's not an upgrade, it's just the wrong upgrade. Like, I personally think if you had a player like Blabber, this team actually becomes a lot stronger because you have a faster paced jungler who will want to get things done, so much so in the early game that it's going to give you a big lead. It doesn't really matter if you're a stabilizing jungler. It really doesn't matter, because if that faster paced jungler beats your shit in literally in 19 minutes, it won't matter if you're stabilized because all your lanes are going to be losing. I don't think Santorin's a bad jungler. I think there's issues with the pickup is what I'm getting at, because I don't think it really fixes their inherent issues of playing faster and having good synergy in their mid-jungle duo that Team Liquid have always wanted. But Santorin's strengths, in my own personal opinion, as I've stated before, does bode well in playing towards mid lane. So if he can enable Jensen, I think that'll be a good thing. And he did that on he did that on almost at CLG. Holy Christ, he did that on FlyQuest when he had multiple other mid laners. Like you had Pole Belter at one point. You also had players. Who was the mid laner FlyQuest had in the 2017 season? I forgot his name. When they had Keen, when they had Keen, when they had Pole Belter, when they've had what's his name? Power of Evil. He has done very well playing towards his mid laners, and even in his earlier days on Season 5 on TSM, he did really well with playing towards Bjergsen and being a Bjergsen ward. So it depends on which Santorin we'll see. Season 11 is all about having a strong jungler, so he's gonna either have to get a lot more faster with his jungle pathing and aggression, or Team Liquid will consistently be looked at as this team with a weak jungler. Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not trying to be mean here, but not really a fan of the upgrade, you know? Like, it's the wrong upgrade. It's not exactly what you need, though. That's my opinion. Jensen, I think Jensen will be a top 3 mid laner in the LCS 2020 season. Fantastic mid laner, played well at the 2020 World Championship. No gripes with Jensen. I've been a big fan of his for a very long time. I think he's been better than Bjergsen. I think he's been one of the best, if not the best mid laner in the LCS for such a long time. And for anybody to say, oh, Bjergsen, blah, 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 LCS titles, where are those World Championship wins, though? Yeah, because Jensen was getting out of group stages in Group of Deaths, while Bjergsen was kind of just getting smacked around. Hey, it's not a Bjergsen bashing video. I'm just saying Jensen performed on the world stage and Bjergsen didn't. So, you know, we'll take it for what it is. I value World Championships more than LCS. That's kind of what most people should be doing, in my personal opinion. I think Jensen will be fine, but the issue here with Jensen is if Santorin decides to dedicate resources to Alphari, I don't know how that'll look for Jensen. Now, when earlier on this year in the LCS 2020 season, Jensen actually was what Nemesis was, but in a better way. You know how I coined that term, weak side mid laner? So Jensen kind of was a weak side mid laner in the way that he was a strong side mid laner, where he kind of just formed his own advantages on champions like Rumble, Syndra, who else he's playing? Galio, Orianna, just a typical mage champions. He played fine when Team Liquid was in shambles, and then progressively played back towards his regular style later on during the LCS 2020 season. And now, with having Santorin, who's going to enable him, he's going to have a much more bigger presence on the map. So I'm really looking forward to how strong Jensen will be for Team Liquid. I think it was the right move to re-sign him. Let's be honest here, you're not going to get a other better mid laner beside Jensen unless you would have gotten Power of Evil. And even if Team Liquid got Power of Evil, they'd be perfectly fine. So that's what I'll say about Jensen. I think it'll be one of the best parts about Team Liquid. I think he'll be an underrated part about Team Liquid during this LCS 2021 season, because a lot of people are going to be focused on CoreJJ, which I'll get to in just a moment after talking about tactical. So yeah, Team Liquid have a really strong mid laner. I'm really itching to see, can Jensen win the 2021 Spring Split MVP award? I really am looking towards that. I think he'll be a big pivotal point toward Team Liquid, and I think and winning LCS always dictates one thing, or getting close to winning it. Having a strong mid laner really does put you in a class of your own. Now, let's talk about the Team Liquid bot lane, which is Tactical first. Tactical, I think, performed really well when given his chance at playing on Team Liquid in the LCS 2020 season after they went with Tactical after kicking Doublelift, and Doublelift went towards TSM. Tactical was a very solid ADC on champions like Kalista. He even played Twitch at Worlds, which was pretty crazy. He had some really good carry performances. And this is an AD carry I see a lot of potential in. even that week where Doublelift got sick and they put Tactical in, you could clearly see the team played better with Tactical because they could play more styles. And that was a good thing about Team Liquid all this year, was they could do different things without Doublelift, and you could really see how it was improving. But when you had Broxa kind of just like running it down a lot of games, not providing any ganks, basically just phoning it in on champions like Graves, starting a Baron up when you didn't need to, that's going to make the whole team look bad. I'm actually glad they moved on from Broxa. Holy crap. But Tactical, as an ADC, I think he's really strong. He lanes perfectly well with CoreJJ. And I think also having a strong ADC like Tactical will give him another edge. And that's the reason why I personally think Team Liquid is going to be either the best team in the LCS 2021 Spring Split, or they're going to be the second best team. And that's because of the other player, which is CoreJJ. So CoreJJ arguably has been the best support in the LCS since he came into Team Liquid in the 2019 LCS season. I think his biggest competition right now is going to be Vulcan, who's playing with one of the other better AD carries in the league, which is Sven. But looking at CoreJJ and looking at how he impacts the team, roaming effectively, warding properly, at Worlds 2020, there was the game against G2 where he was playing set support. We had an insane performance in that game, trying to get the team going, trying to make sure stuff happens. If you've been watching his streams, the in-houses, if you've been watching the All-Star 2020 event, he's really a big driving shot calling force. And I think this is going to be one of the X factors as to the reason why Team Liquid will do better this season, well, specifically this LCS 2021 Spring Split over their LCS 2020 Spring Split, because CoreJJ will have a better grasp of what to do, obviously now, given the fact that he's played with this roster, well, this specific AD carry for quite some time, so now he'll know what Tactical likes to do, and vice versa. Tactical will know what CoreJJ likes to do, and obviously, I think Tactical will be fine if left alone, if CoreJJ roamed, even at the 2020 World Championship. Even when CoreJJ left him, Tactical didn't just die consistently, which is a very, very good thing. So I gave the team another strength right there. So looking at this roster overall, I personally think if you have them anything less than like third in your LCS 2021 Spring Split power rankings, you're probably trolling. Like, I don't think any other roster is going to really beat them consistently outside of like 100 Thieves or Cloud9 or potentially TSM if they really get it together with their new roster. Team Liquid, in looking at where else they could be looking to improve from what I personally think, their drafting phase is fine. It's just a play style. They just play really slow. And then when they knew they were playing slow, they didn't fix it until the very last minute and like it didn't matter. Well, it mattered for the moment, but it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things because, you know, banking on the fact that G2 could beat Suning is not something you want to do. You want to make sure your destiny is in your own two hands. And that didn't happen, obviously. So Team Liquid going into the LCS 2021 season, I want to see faster pace. I need to see that upped tempo aggression from Santorin around the map. Not this like scaling bullshit that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Because I'll tell you this right now. With C9, with junglers like Cloud9, holy fuck, let me get a drink. I missed a whole lineup. You have junglers in the LCS 2021 season. Hold on, one more time. Pause. So in the LCS 2021 season, you're going to have players like Closer, like Blabber, like Svenskeren. You also are going to have players like Jose Diodo. These guys want to fight early on and get shit done. Not this scaling bullshit they're trying to try. That's not going to work anymore. Season 11 is all about stomping your opponent, destroying them, literally stomping them out, blowing them out the water, blowing their ass out from the back. That shit is not going to work. Though I do agree, Santorin is an upgrade over Broxa. How much is it though? If you're not playing faster, it doesn't matter. And if Team Liquid consistently play 1 to like 4 champions, they're going to get figured out in their drafting phase, so it's going to be easier to prep for them. Though, overall, for all of the things I've said, I do think they have a strong roster. More or less so, I could see them finishing like 14-4. You know, that's kind of the worst scenario I see for them finishing. Maybe 13-5, because you have to factor in best of ones. Anything can happen. You also have to factor in, like, let's say that they lose their only 2 games to Cloud9. They could finish, like, 16-2. That's also another possibility for them. I think they have a strong roster. They have a grasp of what they finally need to do. I hope they fix that mid-jungle problem. I really hope they did. Because if they don't, they're going to finish pretty badly. But I like their team. See you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. I'm the Nightwing, and Way of Life Esports is signing out, guys. Peace. Yes, have a good day. #TL win. That dark horse. I love that jersey. I got it over there. Peace. Yo, it's the Nightwing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video that you guys just watched, and if you did enjoy it, make sure you leave a like and a comment down below, and if you never want to miss out on a single upload, make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you get notified whenever I post a video. Thank you guys for the continued support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.